Hello and welcome to The Quest on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Rakhee, Bakshee. In this show, we keep talking to leading personalities each week. And the guest this week with us is Chairperson of National Commission for Women. She's Lalitha Kumaramangalam. Welcome to the show. How does it feel being here,
Thank you.
Heading this body? Very prestigious.
First of all, I'm very honored that this trust has been reposed in me by the government, especially the Prime Minister and the Minister for Women and Child Development, Maneka Gandhiji. But it is a huge challenge. It's very exciting, but it's also a huge challenge.
Don't you think you've come at a critical time when, it's a challenging time, I would say?
Yes, it is, especially today because women's issues have now come to the forefront. And even in the political milieu, the scenario, I think across the board people understand the importance of, increasing importance of women in public life. So,
Ma'am, do you really think this understanding has come about? I mean, and this is, I think, one of the real problems which we'll keep talking about as we go
perhaps
further.
not understanding, but the realization has come about, at least at the top levels of the bureaucracy and the political parties, etc. The realization is there. I wouldn't say that everybody accepts it very gladly or very happily, but the realization is there that the increasing importance of women in public life, people realize
and as you have taken over, one of the most important things which came about National Commission for Women is from WCD, Women and Child Development Ministry, saying that it should be empowered more and more. So it should be like on the pattern of NHRC, should be given more teeth in terms of to arrest, to ask, investigate.
Yes. We are fortunate that we have a minister who is very proactive in this regard, and she's herself suggested it. I think there are a few legal questions that may have been raised. But as you know, the priority of this government was first to get the economics of the country to be stabilized. That is now slowly happening. As you know, the economy is looking up, and I'm sure that they will also now look at this, examine it. And I'm almost 100% sure that we will hear good news perhaps in a few months' time.
What would be the hurdles? I mean, because this is, of course, a new thing, and we are all excited, in fact, if something like this happens. Because one of the things I'm sure as a body you're grappling with earlier is not to really be able to take the law ahead,
No, the laws are there. In India, we have enough laws that protect women. It's in the implementation of laws that there are so many problems. And this is why, one of the reasons why the Honorable Minister would like to see that the NCW is given a little more teeth. Because then it gives us the right to be actually able to try and put some changes into effect, not just question or try to revise or recommend. At the moment, that's mainly what our scope of work is. But what we are looking at, what we are expecting is, and what we hope that will be given is more powers in terms of being able to actually, bring people to book. We are not the police. We can't. The court, the justice system is there, and the police are the ones who file the FIR, etc. But the NCW must also have some powers. Not overreaching. It's not as if we are going to challenge the court or the police or the other systems that are in place, but perhaps work in tandem with them, in partnership with them, and see that, for example, if we issue a summons, somebody they don't bother to come to reply, they don't give any replies, they don't come to meet us, then we should be able to at least have the power to give them some sort of punishment. I'm not saying send them to jail or stuff like that. That of course is the job of the courts. The justice system is already pretty efficient, but they're also overburdened.
Yeah, and exactly, and I think you've come at a time when it really should hold more relevance, because in the past we've seen again certain issues that NCW dealt with and it faced problems. For example, you said about summons, so some of the people who would think they're too high profile and they use other ways sometimes to escape, your summon or the kind of, thing that is being pushed on them.
That is quite, customary, regardless of whether it's women or some other crime that has been committed. The point is that crimes against women have come so much into the public eye now, partly also because of the attention the press is paying them, which is a good thing. And people have come to realize that, since women are 48% of this country, if women are going to lag behind, and if there's so much violence against women, and it's not just rape we are talking about here, there are so many different forms of violence against women which take place on a daily basis, regardless of what caste or creed or you may belong to, or what your social status is, what your economic status is, regardless of your educational status often. that I think the people of this country have begun to realize that unless women are given some form of equality at least, it will never be 100% equal, because
and how do you think NCW would really tackle all these problems? For example, let's talk about the body itself. Sometimes the allegations are that it's political. I mean, whichever government or whichever party, but that headed by, let's say, a person who could be having political affiliation.
I'm also a politician, let me be very frank. But I'd like to say that, policies in this country are really made by politicians. So what we need to have is not to go gung-ho ahead and label all the politicians as being unfair to women, but we have to work with each other. The key here is that if we can coordinate, again, like I say, regardless of party affiliations or regardless of the departments we are going to be working with, regardless of whether it is the executive or the judiciary or the administration, the bureaucracy, coordination between these three to see that women's issues are brought into the forefront and women receive justice. This is basically what we are fighting for. The fact that
Don't you think there are sometimes dangers of getting into the political atmosphere and
see, even politics, there's the good and the bad in every field of life. Everything cannot be 100% correct. Everything is certainly not 100% incorrect. Luckily, we today have a Prime Minister who had the guts to, from the Red Fort, say that you should talk to your sons and question them too. I've never heard a PM. I've never heard anybody in public life at that level have the courage to make a statement as bold as that. Now, that itself has empowered, I think, the entire system in a way. And I therefore feel that this is also, as you said, the right time for us to push for perhaps, for want of a better word, reforms or changes that will be proactive and pro-women. For example, the reservation bill, I'm sure the WCD is going to take it up, but the Commission is also going to push for it. And I'm sure that in these 5 years, when this government is in power, it will come through, and that will give women a much greater say in policy making and also in implementation of those policies.
So there's lots that we want to talk to you about both NCW and what's happening to women, and we are still talking to Ms. Lalitha Kumaramangalam. You're watching The Quest. Don't go away. We are coming back very shortly. Welcome back to the show. You're watching The Quest and we are in conversation with Ms. Lalitha Kumaramangalam. So you're talking about policy. What is it that is now on the agenda of NCW in terms of looking at more women power and giving women the rights that they due to them?
I feel very strongly it's not just about rights. I have, in several public occasions, I have said that we need to look at bringing back the idea of respect, what we say samman in Hindi, that is respect for women. When you respect a woman, automatically her rights will be guaranteed. It's, I think, the fact that in India, I don't know if it's socio-cultural also. It's we have forgotten that Indian culture has always respected women.
Now you're talking about respect at a time when we're grappling with these huge cases of rape, molestation,
exactly.
teasing.
So there is, I think, the lack of respect for women has come down to the stage where we look at women as an object, not as a human being or as an individual who has an identity of her own and is a person. You always look at them just as women. You don't look at them as an individual. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. You're a person, you have your own self-respect, or you should have your own self-respect. You will find that often women don't respect themselves either. So the question of respecting first myself and then you as a person, not just because you're a woman or a man.
But let's talk about these rape cases where maybe a woman is going to work or doing anything, but why she should be attacked and physically
See, the common
violated.
excuse given is that modern women dress in tight clothes, dress in revealing clothes, and men are so weak that they don't have. I always ask this question: are all men so weak that they have no self-control themselves? Yes, everybody admires a beautiful thing, whether it's a painting or a woman or even a good-looking man. But it doesn't mean that it should immediately become some form of trying to possess it or grab it or hurt it or harm it or declare ownership over that particular thing. That is what.
So now that the law came in, how do you think there should be a road ahead? How really
I don't
this
think
can be
it's just the lack of a law. Yeah, today we have a much stronger law which was necessary. I think it's also in the implementation of that law. If you see the most complaints come in is when, say, a woman is eve teased or some acid is thrown on her or she's beaten up in the house, any form of violence against women, the first thing that's not done is FIR daraj nahi hua kehte hain. The first point of referral for this is the local police station. Almost always the police say, you go home, solve it, it's your own problem. Or they say, what are you talking? What was she wearing? Was she with some man? Who is the man? Was she holding his hand? The blame is always put on the woman. This has to change. This mindset has to change. And it's not just the men who have it. It's also women who find fault with other women. A large part of gender bias is in women themselves.
Yeah.
You can't always only blame
Since
the
you
man.
talk about that angle, let's talk about something that you have said also about 498A. I mean, is it true that you feel that sometimes these cases are really overhyped and there's less truth in it?
See, I have also said that given the fact that women have been suppressed for so many centuries, there is bound to be some sort of problem in the initial part of this implementation of this law. But I feel that if you take the teeth away from that law, then you are doing much more harm to this battle for equality for women or respect for women than you are doing any good.
So another thing which is being talked about now is, as you said, this circle that women should. So they should come together. So there should be more coordination. In fact, as NCW maybe can think of is more cohesiveness and coordination with other agencies.
In the implementation of, yes. I think it's not just amongst women coordination. It should be coordination between women and men also. As society, we need to be more aware. And if you want to talk about the fact that women are also responsible, look, women are the mothers. It's the mothers who bring up their sons. If a woman can teach her son, every woman can teach her son to respect her first as a woman, as a person, his sisters, women in their own family, I think you will find over a period of time, it can't take place overnight. Change never takes place overnight. But over a period of time, you will find that it's all right. Like I said, people will say, oh, she was wearing tight clothes, she was wearing tight jeans, whatever. But I don't believe that if you have in yourself as a person respect for the other person, that you only will look at the clothes.
Yeah, and ma'am, we are talking about people who could be celebrities, who could be politicians. In fact, sometimes you've seen that they come out with such statements. How do you really feel, and what can be really done, I mean, in terms of
I think part of it is that we make these statements without thinking twice. There are two issues recently about, again, two celebrities. One was about the singer Yesudas, whom I'm a great admirer of. And I feel very sad that a man who is so respected had to according to me, make such an off-the-cuff remark. If it could be personalized, there's many things. But the fact is that a man in his status and position, I really wish he had thought twice before making that statement. And also the other thing is this whole thing that happened around Deepika Padukone. I think she reacted very maturely. She had the sense to understand that it's not just her as an actress, but as an individual that she was outraged. And I appreciate the fact that she said that it's more as a woman that I feel outraged than as merely a celebrity. And that showed a great deal of maturity in the approach she was taking to a problem that's basically very common.
Yeah, true. So you feel that some of these issues are being tackled, but let's look at specifically some of them. Look at sex selection, which is happening. I mean, female feticide, which is so much out there, and it's really harrowing to hear all kinds of stories. So what is being done? I mean, there is, of course, there is an act again.
There's a very stringent law, but it's in the implementation of the law that we have problems. The proliferation of these imaging centers where abortions are taking place, the fact that dowry is still an actually living organism almost in our society, the fact that people not only give, but people not only take, but others also give dowry. And I think one of the biggest things that awareness should be created about is the fact that if you are going to destroy the women in this society, society itself will die out. We are the ones who procreate, we are the ones who give birth to our children, to the next generation. And if you're going to get rid of women because of certain outdated and unfair social customs and practices, then society is going to take a severe beating sooner rather than later.
So since you're heading NCW and NCW should be taking that kind of, I feel, maybe a more aggressive stance, do you think that it will be kind of changing itself? Because sometimes we see that more understanding is needed within the body itself.
See, I'm here only for 3 years. I will do my best to push as much as I can. And one of the reasons for my conviction is that in my own personal life, I have never been discriminated against. I'm fortunate enough to come from a family where we were educated, where we were never taught that you're not a person with your own rights, with your own self-esteem, with your own capacity to shine, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman. And there are innumerable women in my family who've been extremely successful in the field in which they have worked, whether it's education or politics or social work or many other across the board, even in the bureaucracy. So I'm very fortunate to have come from that background. And when I see how much less fortunate almost every woman in this country is when compared to me, I feel very strongly that,
but sometimes
everybody
we feel
should
that
be
the
given.
members should hear also. I mean, there are members also here, they should be more aware about things. And sometimes it comes out in the news also that sometimes we feel that there should be more understanding of the right things, and certain things happen because of lack of knowledge and
Lack
better
of
understanding.
awareness, I think, yes, lack of awareness and perhaps experience also. One of the good things is that because I worked in the social sector, as I've run my NGO, I think since 91, so I've worked with a huge number of marginalized people, whether it's transgenders or sex workers or even truckers, or even the LGBT, that is the lesbian, gay, transgender population. So I know the problems, and I really did field work because I didn't know anything about the field when I started work in that. So I actually worked in the field for about 5 to 10 years. So I understood how much how much people are discriminated against because of ingrained ideas and customs and stuff. Even I had many of those prejudices. But then because I worked in the field, I learned to overcome them.
Okay. So there are so many other issues we'll of course talk to you about, but right now taking another very short break, which we have to, and we are talking to Ms. Lalitha Kumaramangalam, NCW Chief, right here on The Quest. Keep watching. So welcome back to the show. We're talking to Ms. Lalitha Kumaramangalam, talking about other things like using Nirbhaya Fund in a much better fashion. So what's happening on that front?
The Nirbhaya Fund, I think it hasn't been used really much at all. One of the ideas that the government has is, and I think this is recommended by all other agencies too, is this one-stop crisis counseling center sort of thing for rape victims, where it's like a one single window clearance for, as an allegory. The thing is that we still have to work out the details of that program a little more. Okay. Initially, possibly we could ask for, in select areas, where I think in every district, at the very least, you have some center where a woman who has been abused can go to, where she can talk to the police, where she'll be given counseling immediately, where the other, departments that need to come in. That's what I'm talking about also, coordination, whether it's the counselor or the NGOs or the legal system or the police or the administrative itself. Everybody can be made available to the particular, the victim in one place itself. This is an idea that's been mooted for some time, and the details are being worked out.
Okay. For example, as far as states are concerned, Madhya Pradesh, for example, has come out with its rape crisis center and really working actively.
Yes, it's working very well, I'm told.
So do you think such examples should be like widespread and
I think I'd ask you as a member of the press to please publicize it, because this is not about what government is in power or not in power. This is about rising above all of those small things. I think they are quite petty in this fight that we have for women's empowerment and safety also. We should promote and try to make people aware of the success stories also, not just always the horrendous things. True. We pay too much attention to what's wrong and not what's right. There are lots of things that are being done right in many governments across the country. I would like the press to pick up stories and project them, because success always wants people, it gives them the inspiration to go on in the fight. It is a battle. And
since you're reaching out, would you also reach out to other agencies like women agencies? There are so-called feminists who work on women's subjects, there are lawyers.
So yes, of course. As I said, it has to, I can't do anything alone. What is that old saying? United we stand, divided we fall. Yeah. So I would be more than willing to work with everybody across the board. It doesn't mean that I can listen to everything that people want me to do. But if we can arrive at a via media, the common goal is already there. What we need to do is stop criticizing each other so much and learn to work together. I'm more than willing to work with everybody across the board.
That's a welcome thing that we are hearing from you.
That's probably one of the most important things in a job like this, where one has to put one's own feelings and ego and problems aside and think more about the common goal.
What would you say broadly about gender sensitization happening or not happening, as we feel sometimes in India?
According
when we
to
look
me,
at it from another
I've been saying now, I've started saying that any infrastructural work in India, whether it is the skilling of our country, or whether you're building roads or sanitation or anything, or cleaning up of the Ganga, the gender has to be on board. And gender doesn't just mean that, it's man versus women. It means that women's needs, women's contribution, women's, use of public facilities or whatever it is, has to be taken on board.
For example, this whole issue of sanitation, which has really come up, and Prime Minister himself is so much involved. Would you really think that women are equally given, for example, if you look at the grassroots level, how
I have
women
said this very often. I said it in a meeting yesterday, where I said that, since I do a lot of public work and worked at the grassroots level, I used to say that when I used to go travel around in my constituency and go to villages, I wouldn't drink water the whole day because I could never find a toilet. And then one day my doctor said, this is very bad for your health, you can't do that. So I laughingly said, but what do you want me to do? He said, find, a place that is sort of clean enough. You can't just not drink water the whole day like that. And then you say you drink 2 bottles in the night. That's very bad for anybody's health. So it's a very common thing. Where do you have the toilets? On even the highways.
We all have faced it actually.
Yeah, we've all faced it. Anybody who's worked in this and who's on tour has faced it. Whether you're traveling by air or train or bus, especially bus stations. Where are the toilets for women? And then think about the challenged women, the physically challenged woman. How does she manage? There are many problems. It's not just water.
So looking at the grassroots level, looking at, you refer to this women's reservation bill also. So where do you think politically or at the legislative platform things would be really kind of looked at more seriously?
At the parliament level, since the Congress party has also declared that they will support the women's reservation bill, we shouldn't have a problem. At the legislature level, it depends from state to state. There are states, I don't want to mention any names, etc. There are states where there will be a huge amount of resistance. But I think eventually over a period of time, perhaps maximum, I hope, in the next 5 to 10 years, most of the legislatures should also, once Parliament, once we pass this with the Women's Reservation Bill, I think it also applies to legislatures. So I think there will be a change there, because when you have more women in policy making decisions, automatically gender will, even unconsciously or subconsciously, become part of the work.
And for example, this whole, glass ceiling we talk about, and women, the kind of harassment they, face at workplaces, there is again an act and law there. But where would you really look at the hurdle and the challenge still?
Again,
really?
The hurdle.
Because we're talking even about judiciary, where, people are talking about it now, a woman judge who felt harassed. So things like that.
Again, the challenge is in the thinking, isn't your mindset, as we call it in India. Because I have heard people tell me that nowadays men in senior positions say that we're not going to employ even a female secretary because of this. Now, that is, I think, a knee-jerk reaction. But over a period of time, that will settle down. Everything, change takes a little time. So I think we need to be also, women also need to be a little more patient. And aggression does not always get you the result that you want. We need to be patient, we need to be calmer, we need to also look at the other's point of view and see how we can sit and work out via media where actually implementation is not a problem.
Yeah, one of the things we are seeing now is, due to migration and all this urban versus rural kind of situation, this livelihood problems. So women, let's say when they migrate, they have no such identity and the kind of things they face, once they go out and work.
This is not just migration. In India, over 80% of agricultural labor is women. Most people don't even know this fact. However, women only own 9% of agricultural property. So, the vast majority of workers are women, especially in the sector that is not unionized. I'm not talking about labor in factories, etc. Unorganized labor, whether it's domestic workers, whether it is construction workers, whether it is agricultural workers, a vast majority of them are women, and these are the women who are most often discriminated against in every way.
Yeah, and like we were talking about land rights, so how states handle
property
it in terms
and land rights,
yes. So
and labor laws.
So is NCW thinking seriously on really?
We have already, I think, reviewed several laws, etc., and given our recommendations. But it is ultimately Parliament and legislatures that pass these laws. So we need to do a lot of awareness with politicians across the board in the states at the central level. I again think that at the central level there's more awareness.
Economic fund problems also that you face sometimes here as a body, and then you feel that?
No, I think whatever fund is available at the moment is commensurate to the our terms of reference. But yes, we will be asking for more funds once we are given a little more powers, and I don't think there's a problem if we do ask for more funds and not getting it. They will be given.
And there's this whole gender budget which came in some years ago and part of the budget itself.
See, the problem is that why is gender always looked at separately? Gender should become part of, it shouldn't remain just an agenda. It should be mainstreamed into the budget. And I think our main, bureaucrats and politicians have also started to agree and think along those lines.
And as we're wrapping up, and I think there's so many issues, then maybe we'll have to take a second edition to talk to you more about, but anything that you personally would like to take, since you have a legacy, which is of course very reputed, and you're now working here as the head of this body.
I'd like to just say that I hope that all of us can put our differences aside and look at this not merely as a political agenda, but look at it as the need of the hour. If India is to really take its place internationally, then women must be on board, because otherwise you'll have almost 20% of the, and this is a minimum, we are about 40% of the population. If India is to develop, India's women have to develop.
So thank you so much once again, and talking to us on Rajya Sabha TV, and it's a pleasure talking to you here. And this was Lalitha Kumaramangalam talking to us on this edition of The Quest on Rajya Sabha TV. Hope you liked watching it. Namaskar and bye-bye.